In today's lesson, we're going to learn about some fun audio effects that you can do with Premiere Pro. Some of these effects are things that you might have used before, but we're going to see how we can use it in the right situation and the results that we can get. So I'm back in my poem video sequence that we went over a few lessons ago. In this example, we did everything manually, but we're going to take the same audio tracks and see how we can balance them with each other using the Essential Sound panel. So I'm just going to head to the audio workspace and just reset everything. So turn all the volumes to 0. And if you applied any effects for the audios, remove those too. So we're going to start from scratch when we are balancing the audios. Make sure that there's nothing listed in any of these, because we don't want anything to interrupt our new audio adjustments. So the first effect that we're going to look at is the denoise effect. We learned that applying it here is easier than applying it directly onto the audio track. This is of course for audio tracks that you do not need to trim or split, meaning that you shouldn't apply the denoise effect directly onto things that look like this. It's made for these type of audios, so without any cuts and without any adjustments. So I went ahead and recorded this voiceover using the tool inside Premiere Pro. It's a really short recording and I haven't applied any effects to this audio recording. Let's hear the recording. It's raining a lot today. So we have background noise, as we usually do when we record audios. So now instead of adding my denoise in the audio track mixer, I'm going to apply the effect directly onto my track. Because this audio track does not need any editing, and I can just use the denoise effect to get some presets to save me time. So let's search for denoise in the effects panel, drag it right above, effect controls. Right here, this is our denoise. Choose the edit button and you should be seeing this window. So we have some presets, as you can see. I'm going to bring my playhead here. Right now it's on default. I'm going to play it back so we know what it sounds like with just 40%. It's raining a lot today. Looking good. So this was pretty easy to do and we can do it in the audio track mixer as well. So now let's take a look at the presets that we have and what they do. So there's the default, which is the 40% that comes when you apply the effect. But then you have the option for heavy noise reduction and light noise reduction. So heavy means that, well, it's going to add a lot of denoising. And this is great for situations where you have a lot of background noise and the audio is just crowded with noise that you do not need. So now this is what it sounds like with 80%. It's raining a lot today. So that's pretty clean. And instead of me experimenting with each number, playing it back, Premiere Pro just gave me this number and I could just go with it. On the other hand, when you record in a room that is soundproofed and you just don't get that much background noise, you do not need 80%. So you can go for the light noise reduction, which will just add 20%. But on my audio where I have a lot of background noise, this may not do the trick. It's raining a lot today. So I can hear a little bit of that hissing sound in the back. So if I were to export this audio now, I would be getting an imperfect result. So the heavy noise reduction is pretty good for this audio. We also have processing focus. We have the first option, all frequencies. This is the default form, and you should have yours on this too. We have focus on lower frequencies. We have mid frequencies, lower and higher frequencies. So it depends on your audio really, but by default, you should just keep it on all frequencies. Next, we have gain. If you increase this, it's raining a lot today. It's obviously louder. I'm going to leave mine at 0 decibels. Now to see it before and after, you can just hit this shutdown button. It's raining a lot. To see it before, turn it back on to see the after. It's raining a lot today. And that's pretty good. So this was our first audio effect. It's pretty handy, but again, don't use this on tracks where there is a lot of cuts. Let me just show you what that means. If this is my audio and I needed to make this many cuts, mid-editing, Premiere Pro will have to reanalyze each of these files separately. So sometimes when you export, this glitch can happen that you're going to get like a fade in at the beginning of each cut. I recommend not risking it because let's say after 3 hours of editing, the last thing that you want is your cuts to have a fade in. So avoid doing that and use this direct technique for whole audios like this. If you plan on cutting your audios multiple times, then you can just refer to the audio track mixer. Alright, let's get rid of this and take a look at our second effect. So the second effect is pretty interesting. If you want to blend a sound effect or a music into the area of the video, it would take a lot of time to do it manually. For example, if you have a video, let me just take a look here. I'm going to import some new stuff. They are also in your resource pack. Make a new bin, new stuff, add these straight in. Let's say this is my video. So clearly we are in a room with closed windows. So if I were to add maybe a crying sound effect, I needed to match the environment so that it looks like the person is actually crying and I didn't just put a separate sound effect, trying to hide the fact that we're adding additional effects to the original video. So we have like a crying sound effect here. I'm going to place it right below. Let's see what that sounds like on its own. So the sound effect is too loud and the subject is clearly far away from the camera. So this doesn't make any sense. And if I were to just maybe lower the volume, that will still not give me the environmental effects that I need. So let's try -9 decibels. Again, it sounds like the actor is close to the microphone. So take a look at the video. Like we said, it's a closed environment. She has her head down on her arm. There is windows and the room looks pretty big. So if you're crying in a big room and there's no one else, there will obviously be some echo. Now, if I were to add the denoise, the echo, the volume change manually, then that would take me a lot of time. So I'm going to introduce you to this effect, surround reverb, and this is perfect for situations like this. Add this directly on your audio. And by the way, you can do this with music if you want to make it sound like it's coming from like a speaker here. Go to Effect Controls. Once you apply the effect, hit Edit, and we're going to get this window. We have some presets in the top left, and we have a lot of options. So based on what's in your video, you would choose one of these presets. Let's see the options we have. We have auditorium, center stage, concert dimensions, drum house, and so much more. But for me, it would have to be like in the church, literally. Click it once, and now I can play this back. So there's the echo that I needed. But of course it's a bit much, so I have all these reverb settings to work with to just make this perfect. I'm going to leave everything as it is, but the only thing that I will change is to remove from the surround width. Let's try 100. So this is what I have right now. I got all these different settings. And this is how you're supposed to change the preset, play it back. While it's playing, you gotta work with these sliders. So now let's take a look at a before and after. Just bring this back up. This was before. This is after. So it needs to be a little lower than usual because she's far away. And now I got the perfect surround reverb that I needed. You can do this with literally anything. Maybe if your subject is in a small room, you can use the small room preset, auditorium, and there's just a lot of options for you to choose from. So these presets are really handy, and you can just experiment to see which one works best. But of course, related to what's happening in the video, so that you don't get a weird sound effect. So this was our second sound effect. Another thing that you can add to a situation like this is something called low pass. So this low pass effect basically muffles the music. Usually, let me get like a sad music that I can put in the back. All right, so I got this sad music that I'm just gonna drag down. And this is what it sounds like on its own. Let me just change the label. So this is the raw music placed underneath our reverbed sound effect. So it's too loud and we can barely hear the person crying. So for situations like this, instead of just lowering the audio, there is an effect that can muffle the audio and bring the attention to whatever your sound effect is. Maybe someone is talking here. In our case, someone is crying, but when you want to shift the attention from the music to whatever's happening here, then you would want to use this effect. So before the girl crying, I'm going to get like a random video. So we go from this. So I can't have the music play at the same rate when there's no vocal or sound effect versus when there is vocals or sound effect. So the music needs to sound different here and different here. So let's go to the effects menu and add the low pass effect. Add it on top of your music. Effect controls. And we have something called cutoff, which is basically how much of your music is taken out to make it muffled. So let's take a look at our default number. And now I'm just going to reduce this amount into something way less. Let's try 500. Play this back. So now it's muffled. And I can just bring more attention to whatever that is above it. So this is what it sounds like without the low pass. This is what it sounds like with low pass. So now that I have this muffled effect, I can use it to bring attention to the girl crying. So let's see what it sounds like with the girl crying. So that's pretty good. I just need a little bit more. So this is a lot better than something like this without low pass. So when you don't muffle music in emotional scenes like this, the audience's attention may shift to the music rather than the dialogue or the girl crying. And because the scene is about the girl crying, I cannot have everyone's attention shifted to the piano music. So let's turn on the low pass. And I can just make keyframes so that it's muffled somewhere but not in another place. So because I have nothing here, I don't really need the muffled effect. A few seconds before our sound effect, I'm going to make a keyframe for cutoff. Go backwards to the beginning and turn it back to what it was. So I think it was like 1,300 something. So that's pretty good. I just need to bring this here actually. So you can hear that it just gets muffled out of the blue. So I'm going to change the second keyframe to 1,000, oh sorry, the first one, to 1,490. Let's hear the audio. You can even go higher than 700. Let's try 500. And then when your sound effect is finished, you can just bring it back to the original amount. So make a keyframe a few seconds before the sound effect ends. Then go forward and increase it back to what you had before, 1495 I think. And then you're going to get a transition back to the original music. I'm going to bring it to this area so we can see the transition, rather hear the transition. So see how the audio just becomes a lot more clear as we proceed with the keyframes. So this is a really good effect to use for situations like this. So those were some effects that you can use for your short films, music videos. They are really helpful, and you should just use each of the sliders to find the best settings for your videos. We're going to continue with the audio effects in the next lesson, so I will see you guys there.